You can also request 2 minutes. Why don't you go and print in the meantime?
Yes, I've requested someone to print. I've requested David. Let me just check.
Who is bringing some water? I need some. You can't, you are the press conference without water.
Today? Sure. Are you able to print?
No. On the bleeding. What is this? 2,000. I thought this was first issues. Even the influence who might not be the Oh, so maybe some of them it means they are very active. So on that day we did other or other inquiries or other so all these are information. Yeah, all these are information. And the emails.
Good. Okay. Minister, we ready? Good morning, colleagues, thank you very much for honoring the invite to come and join the minister. We have invited you to come and listen to the minister's brief on the latest in relation to how Thabo Bester got his ID. We are also going to be touching on a few other matters that are related to that speak to Home Affairs. Without further delay, I do invite the minister to come and address you. Thank you.
The Director General of the Department of Home Affairs, Mr. Tommy Makode, and the Deputy Director General for Civics, Mr. Thomas Sigama, and the Provincial Manager of Home Affairs in the Gauteng Province, Mr. Albert Matsaung, journalists from various media platforms, and members of the public, ladies and gentlemen. As you are aware, the services of the Department of Home Affairs were enlisted by the law enforcement agencies to establish the identity of Thabo Bester. In pursuance of the mandate, officials of the Department of Home Affairs were part of the multidisciplinary team that visited the United Republic of Tanzania in April 2023 to facilitate the lawful deportation of Thabo Bester and Doctor Nandipha Magudumana back to South Africa. Similarly, the Department of Home Affairs conducted an extensive investigation which included interviewing the biological mother of Thabo Bester, namely Macy Maria Mabaso, who was born Bester. The investigation also involved reviewing the birth records of Thabo Bester at Kisani Baragwanath Hospital and data stored in the DHA systems. The outcome of the investigation revealed that despite Thabo Bester having attained the age of 16 years, he has not applied for an identity card and as required in terms of the law. The Director General took immediate steps in terms of Section 17, subsection 2 of the Identification Act, Act number 88 of 1997, which reads as follows, and I quote, subsection 2 says, if it comes to the attention of an officer acting in the service of the Department of Home Affairs that a person referred to Section 3 talks about having to take an ID when you reach the age of 18. So they said if there's an officer who is referred to in Section 3 who discovered that a person has attained the age of 16 years and has not complied with the provision of Section 15.1, that officer shall take prescribed steps to ensure that the person applies without delay for an identity card in terms of this Act, close quotes. Acting in terms of the said section, the Director General addressed a letter dated 15 May 2023 to Thabo Bester, advising him that he has assigned relevant officials to assist him in his application for an identity card. Thabo Bester cooperated with the said officials, who also required his mother to sign the necessary application forms, and the old lady did sign. As a result of the said process, Thabo Bester was issued with an identity card on the 17th of May 2023. His name has now been entered into the National Population Register, thus ending many years of his status as an unidentifiable person. Relevant extracts from the Identification Act are annexed on my speech for those who might need it. I've also obtained ladies and gentlemen, permission from Thabo Bester in writing whether I could show his identity card. However, we won't be able to distribute it. He has given that permission because I knew, Griselda, that you're going to say, where is the card? Yes, I already knew. So this is the birth certificate, firstly, because when we issue an identity card, we must start with a birth certificate. This is Thabo's birth certificate, issued on the 15th of May 2023. That's the birth certificate. The ID, guys, aren't my things mixed up here? Where is the ID? Can you give me the copy of the ID? See? I thought one of the copies was an ID. They are both birth certificate, you know. I want the ID. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Thabo Bester's ID. You are aware, for security reasons, that we obliterated some numbers here, and I will tell you why, because I want people, even the public, to understand. The first 6 numbers of any ID is your birth date, and that really is shared with many people. It can't be a secret. The 7th one shows your gender. All the females share numbers from 0 to 4. 0 or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 is shared by all the females. All the males share them numbers from 5 to 9, either a 5 or a 6 or a 7 or 8 or 9. Now I'm skipping the next 3 numbers. I go to the last. The last 3 numbers, 08 something, it denotes your nationality, whether you are a South African or not. And all of them are here. The only one that we obliterated is because it identifies a person, and we don't think it will be fair to show anybody's identity number publicly, even if he gave permission. But this is Thabo Bester's ID number. I also want to emphasize, yes, I also want to emphasize, ladies and gentlemen, that when we went to Mampuru prison to deal with this issue of Thabo Bester, it was not a secret mission. I've seen in some publication as if we were hiding and they caught us out. It was not a secret mission to go there. We actually took a mobile Home Affairs truck, which is emblazoned with big letters of Home Affairs. And not only Thabo Bester was processed that particular day, now that the truck was at Mampuru prison, even some of the employees there who had green barcoded IDs took an advantage to convert to a smart card, and they were so processed. Even the inmates who are found to be having no IDs, if correctional services give us the number, the list, we will process them. So I want to emphasize, our mission to Hoshi Mampuru prison was not a secret mission. It was an open one. You can't have a secret mission when you get in with a very, very highly visible truck. I just wanted to clarify that. Now, this Thabo Bester saga has brought into the sharp focus of other inmates incarcerated in various correctional service facilities who are in similar positions as Thabo Bester. But I happen to know that in Gauteng, Mr. Matsaung has just informed me that they do have a program where the Department of Correctional Services give them a list of inmates who don't have IDs, and they do visit and go and give them IDs. So we have agreed with that department that they must keep on giving us names of people who don't have IDs, because, as you are aware, identification is at the heart of security of the country. And furthermore, a person without identification could be involved in nefarious and criminal activities undetected, as this might have been the case with Thabo. I'm aware, by the way, that there are other South Africans from all walks of life who have attained the age of 16 years, who never applied for an identity card. I therefore call upon all eligible citizens to apply for identity cards if and when they attain the age of 16, because that's what the law requires. This brings me to another issue which has been published in many media platforms. On the 14th of April 2022, in a press statement and the subsequent interviews that I did, I pointed out, ladies and gentlemen, that Dr. Ntani deposed an affidavit with the South African police in 2019 and declared that her passport was stolen. This is the passport which was still to expire in 2022 and was recently found in Tanzania on the person of Doctor Nandipha Magudumana. On the strength of this passport, she acquired a new passport which was which, as I said before, will only expire in 2029. On the 27th of March 2023, she deposed another affidavit with the police, that this time stating that she gave her recent valid passport to Dr. Nandipha and TK Nkwana, the assumed name of Thabo Bester, as they were going to apply for a working citizenship in the US. I am mentioning this because we want to make corrections today. I accept that Dr. Nzani actually did not depose an affidavit when she applied for a passport in 2019, and that there were no conflicting versions about this issue of application. I therefore retract the statements I've made on that particular day and subsequent words to that effect, and I would like to extend my sincere apology to her in this regard. The statements were based on the information given to me at the time. It will be seen that the statements conflated the expired passport, the 2019 passport, and the recent passport applied for in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, I, however, fully stand by the statement I made that Dr. Mereka Ntani's two passports were found in the person of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana in the United Republic of Tanzania. So I'll never apologize for those statements, as they are true and were made in the public interest. We now come to a very important issue, which is recent, ladies and gentlemen. The Department of Home Affairs has obtained legal advice that there are strong legal grounds to revoke the passport of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, and that firm action must be taken to that effect. The Director General will be taking due legal process steps in terms of the South African Passports and Travel Documentation Act, Act number 4 of 1994, read with the relevant regulations, to revoke the passport issued to Dr. Nandipha Magudumana on the 16th of February 2017, which is due to expire on the 15th of February 2027. I need to explain this, ladies and gentlemen. You are aware that in Tanzania, 3 passports were found on the person of the Nandipha Magudumana. 2 of the passports belonged to Dr. Mereka Ntani, and 1 of the passports belonged to Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. Now, this is the passport we are talking about. We said on the 14th that it is valid and it's a legitimate passport and is due to expire in 2027. This is the passport we are revoking in terms of the law, because she no longer deserves to be having it. Now, we have learned about an urgent application launched by Dr. Nandipha Magudumana in Bloemfontein, and we've seen there's been media reports regarding the urgent application launched by Dr. Nandipha Magudumana in Bloemfontein. The Director General only managed to access the court papers yesterday. We saw them in the news, and only yesterday we got the court papers late in the afternoon. The Director General was shocked to discover that the Department of Home Affairs and I, as the Minister, were not cited as respondents in that matter. This is despite the fact that on the 15th of May 2023, coincidentally is the day on which Bester got his birth certificate, but they are not related, but I'm just mentioning it. This is despite the fact that on the 15th of May 2023, there were exchange of correspondence between the Director General and Mutlowing Inc., attorneys of record for Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. The attorneys wrote us letters, there was an exchange, and that then they go to court without citing Home Affairs. It shocked us. The Director General immediately addressed a letter dated the 21st of May 2023, that's yesterday, yeah? Yes, to her attorneys raising objections to the non-joinder of the Department of Home Affairs and myself as the minister, and demanded that the ill-advised application be removed from the agent role. The letter corrected the wrong stance adopted by Dr. Nandipha Magudumana that she was unlawfully abducted or extradited from the United Republic of Tanzania. Dr. Nandipha Magudumana and Thabo Bester were declared prohibited immigrants in terms of the immigration laws of Tanzania, and were therefore, as a matter of law, liable to be deported back to the country of origin, which is South Africa. The same procedure was followed in respect of the Mozambican national who was in their company. The said letter was circulated to all parties in the court proceedings in Bloemfontein. All the parties that were cited there, we circulated this letter the DG sent to them, demanding that this matter be retracted. However, we believe if the matter is not retracted, we will be there in Bloemfontein on the 25th. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm outlining all these steps because the matters in question are of immense public interest, and the Department of Home Affairs has a constitutional duty to adhere to the principles of accountability and transparency. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Colleagues, we are now getting to the interactive part. Before we do that, let me just outline some few house rules. Let me just indicate, introduce to you the people who are here in the front who are joining the Minister. To the Minister's left is to the Minister's right is the Director General of the Department, Mr. Tommy Makode. To the Minister's left, it's Mr. Thomas Segama, who is responsible for the civic branch in the department. That is the branch that is responsible for identification, passports, and related services. To my far right, that is Mr. Albert Matsaung, the provincial manager for Gauteng. With that having been said, I will then request and invite questions from the floor. Kindly indicate your name and the publication that you represent, and please do use the mics, switch them on when you are asking the questions. We will start from here at the front. Griselda, yes ma'am. And yeah, we'll take the first three. We're ready for you.
Good morning to everyone. I'm Griselda Lewis from SABC Television News. Minister, I want to start on the letter that Dr. Pashi had written to you calling for an apology. I see you've apologized this morning, and precisely for what she said were defamatory and wrongful statements that were made by you. You're conceding this morning that a portion of what you said with relating or in relation to the deposing of that affidavit, you're now saying that indeed she never deposed an affidavit, and those are statements that you made in that press conference in April. Would you welcome if she continues with the legal action against you? Because she felt that the statements that were made were to dance to the public gallery, and that her reputation has already been done much harm. The second question, Minister, you are correct to indicate that indeed you are not respondents in the urgent application that Dr. Nandipha Magudumana will have heard before the Bloemfontein High Court on Thursday. Can I just get some clarity? Because her lawyers will argue on Thursday that she was kidnapped and that South Africa did not have any jurisdiction to arrest her in that country. There are also allegations that authorities from South Africa had posed as tourists in that country. And was your team part? Was there a Home Affairs official part of that team? Because then that would mean that the entire team, according, of course, to the papers that have been submitted to the High Court, that South Africa is basically accused of having abducted Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. They say that it's a sovereign state. They had no jurisdiction to do so. Was your team part of that? And on entering that country, is there any truth to some of the allegations that there had been some resistance from authorities in Tanzania about the presence of South African officials there, and they subsequently entered that country through other means? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Please share with us your name and the publication.
Sure, thank you. I've been covered by Crisalda. My name is Modise from Eyewitness News. I've been covered by Crisalda quite a bit. I'm just seeing the minister in possession of both an ID, a copy of the ID, and a copy of the birth certificate. Is this therefore a concession from Bester himself that he is Thabo Bester? And I ask this because there was a back and forth in court. My understanding is that he'd come out to say, or his lawyers were inferring that he may or may not be Thabo Bester. Has he therefore conceded that that is his identity and he's directly linking himself to the identity of Thabo Bester?
Thank you very much, Kgomoto. Mulot.
Thank you, Moloko Moloto from ENCA. Just back on the apology that you issued out, Minister. Maybe somebody would want to know, how did you get it so wrong? So basically you made a public pronouncement when you haven't seen the affidavit that you made reference to. What happened? How did you get it so wrong? And secondly, what are the reasons for revoking Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's passport when you say she is no longer eligible to have a, specifically why? Why can't she have a passport?
Okay. You covered. All right. Yeah, thank you very much. For now, we'll take those the first round of questions from the three journalists. Minister.
Yes, Criselda, the first question about the apology. I made it clear in this statement that I'm apologizing for one and only one thing. That in acquiring a passport in 2019, she never deposed an affidavit that her passport was stolen. That's what I'm apologizing for, because it was not a true statement. Mr. Moloko Moloto says, how did I get it so wrong? By coming to the public without seeing the affidavit. I did see the affidavit, which was disposed on the 27th of January, that her passport has been given to Nandipha Magudumana and TK Ngwana, which is an assumed name of Thabo Bester. That one I did see. The one of 2019, I was so informed by officials. Then I found that they've mixed up issues in terms of which is which, because she applied for several passports. Now, my apology is specifically for the statement I made that she deposed an affidavit in 2019 that her passport was stolen. The other issues are correct, and that's why I'm saying I'm standing by them. The other issues I said on that day, they are correct. It is true that both passports, regardless of how they were acquired, were found in the person of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana in Tanzania. that those statements are true. I'm not retracting for them. In fact, my apology is simply about how she acquired a passport in 2019. The issue of stolen or not. That is what I'm retracting and nothing else. Well, you ask if it will be welcome if she take legal action because of defamation. I was not defaming anybody when I mentioned the manner in which a passport was taken. There are 3 methods through which people acquire new passport. There are 4 in our records for everybody. It's either it's stolen, it's either it is lost, or it's either it is due to expire in less than 6 months and it will get full then, or it may expire after 6 months but is full. Those are the methods, and a mistake was made with one of them, and that's why I'm factually saying I'm sorry about that, because it was a mistake, but not the actual process of what happened. I'm not apologizing for that, because those are true statements. Just the issue of how a passport was acquired in 2019. That's all. Now, Griselda, you are saying the claim is that she was kidnapped, and you want to ask if Home Affairs officials were part of the team. That's precisely why we are challenging this court challenge, Griselda. Because if you remember, if I have to relay the story again, a police, plane left here. Can you give me the hood? A police plane left here. I think it was on the 9th, right? If I'm not mistaken. I hope I don't miss the dates and have to apologize again for missing the date. But I remember the police left on Sunday the 9th, the day before Easter Monday. I think it was the 9th. They left here, and one of our officials working in Home Affairs left with them to Tanzania to help in the identification process. When they were there, having taken fingerprints and meeting Tanzanians and all that, the Tanzanians then said, we have declared these people, Thabo Bester and Doctor Nandipha Magudumana, as illegal immigrants into Tanzania, and that they must be removed within 3 days, if I'm not mistaken. They said they no longer want them in Tanzania, they must be removed. But they further said they will never hand them over to police in South Africa or the army, neither to any of their vehicles, because if they do so, they will be doing the process called rendition. Yes, they will be doing a rendition. They said they will only give them over to immigration officials. Now the Home Affairs officials who was there was not representing immigration. And at any rate, even if he was, they made it very clear that they will never use any type of vehicle, including a plane, that belong to police, because internationally that will be regarded as a process of rendition. That is why immediately on that, after hearing those news, we ourselves acquired a flight, a chartered flight. And in that chartered flight, we put the head of enforcement under immigration to go with a team of other people to Tanzania. And when they arrived there, the Tanzanians handed over Thabo Bester and Magugumana to the High Commissioner of South Africa in Tanzania. And the High Commissioner handed them over to the immigration officials. This is exactly the same process we carry on in South Africa. That's how we understood it. That's why we understood it. We carry the same process. When somebody is in Lindela for repatriation because they are in South Africa illegally, we call the ambassador of their country. In this case, it's a high commissioner. We call the ambassador or a high commissioner and say, here is a person from your country. And then they process and agree with us. And then we get transport. When we arrive at the border on the other side, we hand them only to immigration officials and to nobody else. We won't hand them to police, won't hand them to the army. We hand to immigration officials in that country. That's what the Tanzanians demanded, Griselda. And we did exactly that. and they were handed over and they were brought here. Now, for the legal team of Dr. Nandipha to go to court and challenge their bringing here as having been illegal and what did they call it? An abduction. And then in the documents, they don't code Home Affairs. We think there's something sinister about that. They don't code Home Affairs. And at all material times, they knew that Home Affairs was there. And they were handed over to Home Affairs. And at any rate, I've already told you, the lawyers who are taking this case to court did write to the DG of Home Affairs demanding this information, which means they knew. They wrote to the DG and said, give us information. And they actually outlined it about the whole process, how it was done. But because they are lawyers, they are not a state institution, the DG wrote to them and said they must, if they want that type of confidential information, they must apply for it via PAIA. Yes, they must apply for it through PAIA. And he wrote them that letter. And now when they go to court, they leave Home Affairs behind and go for the police, go for NPA, go for the correctional service facility in Bloemfontein, go to everybody else except Home Affairs, which is the department that brought people here. It is on those grounds, Kiselda, that we are challenging this court case. But yes, your question is, was Home Affairs there? Yes, we were there right from the beginning when the police arrived on, after leaving on Sunday, the 9th of April. We were there, but then 2 days later, we dispatched our own chartered flight, now specifically with immigration officials, who are the people who received them from the High Commissioner, and the High Commissioner having received them from the Tanzanians. Any truth that allegations that South Africa entered Tanzania through other means, I'm not sure, Griselda, what you are referring to. Our officials in Home Affairs did not enter through any other means. They entered officially, firstly with a police plane, and secondly with our own chartered flight. And they got out also officially. Khomotso, you are saying, is it a concession from Bester that he is really a Thabo Bester? I'm not sure how to answer the question, because Thabo Bester did not have to concede to anything. We were sure that it is him when we did what we call a late registration of birth. And I want to repeat this, because I did say it in Parliament during my budget speech last week. When we say registration of birth, I mean late registration of birth, or LRB, is anybody who takes identification after 30 days of birth. If it is after 1 year, it's even worse. Before 1 year, we do, tolerate it, but after 1 year is worse. What the person must do is then to acquire documents which may identify them. It might be from a kindergarten where they once attended. It might be from a Sunday school where they once were there. There might be some record of registers there. It might be from the school where they've attended. It might be from the traditional royal family, where maybe something about that family was recorded. It may even be from a ward councillor who will say, yes, I know this family, etc. They get all those documents together, bring them to Home Affairs. Home Affairs will then not issue an ID, but there's a special tribunal in every Home Affairs office which sit together. They sit not necessarily every day, but they sit once there are enough documents to be looked into. That tribunal goes through these documents and decide on the balance of information given to them. That yes, this person is a South African, we give them an ID. In the case of Thabo Bester, Mr. Matsaung conducted that process, the LRB process, with a tribunal. And on the basis of that, he was issued with an ID. There are stories that no, we only issued the ID because there was a DNA done. And it will give people an impression that we only issue IDs after DNA. No, that's not true. The DNA was not done by us as part of an LRB process. It was done by police. Of course, it came in to help, but it was done by police in their own investigation, and they found that is matching that of Thabo's mother, or at least the woman who told us that she is Thabo's mother. So he had nothing to concede. All the information was there. So the basis of Home Affairs issuing the ID is on the basis of an LRD process. And of course, as I said, I'm repeating, the DNA became handy, but it's not really the thing that pushed us to use an ID, as people were saying. So the issue of conceding from him, that's why I'm not sure whether we can say it's a concession on him or not. He had no option as far as we are concerned, and that's why he cooperated so well. Moloto, I think I've already answered you on the first one. The second one, why are we revoking Nandipha's passport? I've just read here that it is required by law. It is the Identification Act that requires that we do so. In the Identification Act, a copy of which we'll give to you, they outline the conditions under which a passport may be revoked. One of them clearly states, if the person has been deported and has been brought to the country at the expense of the state. You are aware that we had to hire that chartered flight for 1.4 million rand. It's at our expense, and the law is very clear in that regard, that if that is the case, then we've got the right to revoke that ID. And Mr. Moloto, we are actually revoking it specifically for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We are going to start with the second round of questions. I would like to read questions that were sent to me by Linda Mnisi of Newsroom via WhatsApp. His first question is asking if the deportation was done legally and why were the documents...
Just start again. I'm sorry, I was still doing something with the DG here.
Okay.
Just start again.
All right. It's Linda Mnisi from Newsroom Africa. His first question is whether the deportation was done legally and why were the documents not attached to the charge sheet, or why are they not even before the court? And then the second question is asking what is the recourse for Dr. Pesci? The third question, I think this one has been answered because he's also asking about the revocation of the reasons for the revocation of the Dr. Nandipha's passport. And he's asking, can you officially confirm that she was not abducted, and what are they basing this on? And when was Nandipha and Thabo handed over to immigration officials? So those are the questions that are coming in from Linda Mnisi. And I'm coming back to the floor. I see Khomotso and Muloko and Criselda in that order, please. Khomotso.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm hearing the issue around repercussions on Dr. Pesci. I just wanted to find out, the Minister speaking about, you're very clear on which parts of your statements you are apologizing for and what you are revoking and what you are not. Can you take us into your confidence, please, Minister, on the investigations into how these passports ended up in Nandipha's possession? I know that this was subject to an investigation as to how they ended up with her. She says they were stolen, but I know that police have been, or it's been part of an investigation on how they got to her and how she ended up with these passports in Tanzania. Please take us into your confidence and give us an update, if you can, on the investigations that are ongoing.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Moloko Moloto again from ENC. I think my question is direct there. Do you still stand, Minister, by the remarks you made that Dr. Pesci indeed did say that the passports she had given those particular passports for Thabo and Nandipha to assist her to secure a job in the United States? as you are now apologizing for saying that she did say that they had been stolen? And secondly, does it mean that in simple terms when you say that they were handed over to the immigration officials in Tanzania, South Africa's immigration officials, does this then mean that the only time they got arrested by South African police was when they landed at the airport here in Randburg?
Okay, sure.
Just your last issue.
I get you are saying, Minister, they were handed over to by the Tanzanian authorities through the immigration officials, South Africa's immigration officials who had gone there as part of the multidisciplinary team. My question, therefore, is when exactly were these two arrested by the South African police? Is it my understanding, tell me if I'm correct, that possibly they were arrested for the first time by South African police when they arrived at Lanseria Airport?
Okay. Can you please switch off the mic and then Griselda? Sure, Griselda.
Good morning once again. It's Griselda from SABC Television News. Minister, I hear you saying you're apologizing for one aspect of what you said in that briefing in April. But wouldn't you concede those are indeed defamatory statements? If you say that I deposed an affidavit, which I didn't, you are defaming my name in public. And obviously, due to the nature of the interest in this particular matter, her name was certainly defamed by what you said. So, can I just get your concession on that part? And also, can the department unilaterally revoke, a travel document without due process? Can you just say, okay, I'm revoking your? I understand I'm not a legal eagle, but is there no obligation to comply with the Odi al Patrem rule in this instance? Can you just say, okay, I don't think you are desirable anymore, so let me just take your passport. Also, I'd like to find out, how did your team, together I guess with the South African Police Service, verify in Tanzania that the person that you were arresting was Thabo Bester, if you only managed to register him so much later? And do the fingerprints in Tanzania match the person they found there? And who conducted the process of the deportation in Tanzania? Is there proof it was done there?
Okay. Thank you very much for that. I'll invite the minister.
Let me start with Linda. Miss, whether the deportation was done legally, I thought I've already said so in the statement. I've already said so, maybe if I may repeat, that the Tanzanians declared Nandipha Magudumana and Thabo Bester as undesirable. And if you look at this document from the United Republic of Tanzania, it says notice to prohibit immigrant Doctor Nandipha Magudumana, nationality South African female, etc. I'm just giving the example about, I won't read the others. You are unlawful present within the United Republic of Tanzania. You are hereby ordered to leave Tanzania within 3 days. So that's when the declaration was made. And that's when the Tanzanian then said, but the police who are here, even if they are South Africans, we won't give them to them because that is a rendition. That's why Home Affairs have to run around to acquire the services of a chartered flight to go and fetch them. Why were there no documents before the court? We are not in court as Home Affairs. It is the NPA that is prosecuting the case. and I'm sure you can ask them that as to what documents they need. Any person who needs documents from us will present them, and I'm sure you must direct the question for that. On the issue of Pashi's recourse to the law, in the letter which she received, she said, I must apologize for statements that are wrong. I never regarded it as defamatory, and I've already considered that I am apologizing for the fact that I said in 2019, when she applied for a passport, she said it was lost. And I'm repeating, that is the part that was wrong, and I'm apologizing for that as it was required. The issue of whether the people were not abducted, again, it comes many times. I'm not sure, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, why there is this drama that somebody was abducted, why it is being pushed, and because I can hear all the questions seem to be believing that we went to Tanzania to abduct people. I'm sure you are aware that we could also not have undermined the Republic of Tanzania, which is a sovereign state. If you get into a country and abduct somebody, you are actually undermining the sovereignty of that state. And we are working very well with the Tanzanians. And I repeated the process to you. There's a question from Homozo here. I didn't understand it very well. Can you repeat it? Did you say how were passport in the possession of Tanzanians and all that? Can you please repeat it, Homozo?
So it's on the back of Linda's question as well, around recourse for Dr. Pashi. I mean, I understand that there was an investigation into
how the passport were in the possession.
Yes, how they
got no. That one is a question you must direct to the police. Yes.
Minister, I'm asking you to take us into your confidence as you've been communicating with your counterparts, the police.
No. There are certain things which police are doing which they don't even tell me in the first place. Yes, no, that's true. It's not a joke. So I'm just saying, if you want to know that, you go to the police. I'm not privy to what they are doing in that regard, and I'm being honest about it. Muluku, you are saying if I still stand by the fact that she handed their passport to Thabo and Magudumana to go. Is that the question, Muluku?
Yes. Specifically because at some point, I think in April, you did mention that she did say that she wants them, Thabo and Nandipha, to assist her get a job in America. Do you still stand by that?
Yeah, no, I still stand by it because it's in the affidavit, whose copy we have got. It's not me who said so. She's the one who said so. So it's not me standing by it. It is written in an affidavit taken by under oath by her. That's exactly what she has done, which affidavit she deposed with the police. So I definitely still stand by that. The issue of where were they arrested in South Africa, I'm respectfully also asking you to refer that question to the police because I'm not really aware of their processes. If you insist that I become a spokesperson of police, I'll make mistakes, terrible mistakes for that matter, and that won't be good.
Sorry for interrupting, Minister, but your officials were leading that particular process to get them back in the country. Are you therefore saying that you did not arrest them there? Even if you can't speak for the police, but whatever you did there, it was not an arrest from Home Affairs.
We in Home Affairs arresting. No, we don't arrest people. We went to bring them home in a deportation order after a deportation order by Tanzanians. They were saying they are undesirable and they identify them as South Africans, so South Africa must take them. And that's exactly what we did, Mulo. We never arrested anybody. We don't arrest people for that purpose. It's not our job. Criselda, you have asked again, can we unilaterally revoke the passport of somebody? I never said unilateral. The statement I read, I just mentioned that we've got an intention to revoke that passport, and I quoted the act. And I went further to say the DG will in due course follow the requisite processes. There are processes which are followed when we revoke identification of anybody. And it's along the same lines that you are saying. Then I said the DG will start the processes. But I'm telling you the intention. Because processes like that start with an intention. You cannot do that such a process if you don't have any intention. It's more or less when you intend to suspend somebody from work. The law says you must write them a letter. I'm sure you are talking about audio alteram partem, to give cause why they must not be suspended. It means your initial intention is to suspend them, but you will hear from them when you give them an audio alteram partem. When you give them their right to reply, you would like to hear whether your intention is correct or your intention is misplaced. If it is misplaced, then you won't go on with the process. If it is indeed correct, then you go on with the process. So the two processes are the same. That's why I said the DG will follow the normal processes. So you are right, we don't do things unilaterally because PAJA will not allow us to do so. How did we verify in Tanzania that this is Thabo Bester? Remember, Thabo Bester might not have identification, but when he was in police custody, he was fingerprinted. They had his fingerprints in the name of Thabo Bester. And so the official who went with the police to Tanzania went specifically for that purpose because he is working in that area. So he immediately acquired fingerprints to compare them with the fingerprints which are in possession of the police here in South Africa. And in that regard, he was able to know that this indeed is a Thabo Bester. And the Tanzanians were also convinced because of that information, and they declared them undesirable. And they knew very well that despite the fact that he's carrying a passport in the name of an American, they were aware that he's not. They were convinced by this information given to us. Yes, our first team member who went to Tanzania was able to identify them through fingerprints which were taken there and through fingerprints in the possession of both police and correctional services back in South Africa, that yes, this indeed is the person who escaped from custody in South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. Colleagues, I just wanted to check if we still have questions. It looks this would be the last round of questions. At the moment, I only see Muluko. Okay. Muluko, can you get your question?
Just a quick one. Because these two passports, the expired one and the one that is still valid, two passports that belong to Dr. Pesci were found in possession of Nandipha and Thabo Bester. What is the law saying? Because I would assume that the passport remains the property of the Home Affairs Department, right? And it was given to Dr. Pesci, but they were found with someone else. In that regard, is there no possibility of holding her accountable to say, we gave this to you, you gave it to someone else? Chances are that it could have been used unlawfully or illegally elsewhere, bringing the name of the Home Affairs and brand South Africa into disrepute. Can't you revoke Dr. Pesci's passport? Do you not have recourse there?
The law is not guiding us in that regard, Muluk. And I'm not sure whether it's illegal for me to give my passport or my ID to somebody else. I think the issue here is the reasons under which it was given, which I said is a matter which is not being investigated by us. As I'm standing here, you don't know who's having my passport. I'm sure you know that. You too, I don't know who's having your passport or your ID. The question is, the motive under which they have it, the circumstance under which they have it, and the reasons. But just giving your passport to somebody else by itself is not an offense. I do have 3 passports, by the way. One is official, the other is diplomatic, and one is my personal passport. The official passport is not on my person. It's kept by my officials who use it anytime when I have to fly out. It's not illegal for them to have it. The question is, why are they having it? So in that regard, the law doesn't tell us anything. I don't think they regard it as an offense per se, except the other issues that might be investigated, not by us. Thank you.
There's one more question from Linda. He says that we didn't respond to when he was asking if...
Just talk here so that everybody can hear you.
All right.
There's something called transparency.
Yeah. Linda Minister is asking if the deportation was done legally, why were the documents not attached to the charge sheet or even before the court?
I've answered that question. We are not in court as Home Affairs. The people who are in court is NPA. As to what type of documents they require for their case, they decide and go to acquire those documents. Whether it's from Home Affairs, etc., it's not us who are in court. So we can't, Linda, be able to answer that question about why were documents not in court. Anybody who wants documents from us, and it's a law enforcement agency, like the NPA, we will give them. The lawyers who were looking for these documents, because they are private persons, we ask them to acquire them through the normal mechanism of acquiring confidential information, which is by ear. But any other law enforcement agency will give them the documents, Linda. And I'm repeating, we are not in court as Home Affairs. But on this case of Nandipha, we are demanding to be, by the way. Yes, we are demanding to be in court. We are demanding, we wrote a letters and say, please cite us. You cannot cite the police and the NPA and other people and leave us when you know that the issue are charging them for is something that was conducted by the Department of Home Affairs. So in that regard, we are demanding to be in court. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Colleagues, we had indicated that that was the last round, but I see that there's just one. You saying just one more question?
Yeah, let them ask until they are satisfied.
Thank you very
or
much.
until they are tired.
Thanks here for allowing that. Thanks, Minister. Minister,
It's
when
me
you
who allowed it, not
Oh,
you.
okay, both of you. Thank you very much. I acknowledge you, Minister. All right, Minister, when you say you're demanding to be part of this court process, does this mean that you will be deposing affidavit or application? By what means will you be doing this? And is it true that you only wrote to or indicated that you want to be part of this process overnight to Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's lawyers? Is that correct? Because you do say that you did write to the lawyers of Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. Is this true?
Okay.
And how do you plan to join this process?
All right. That is the last question, unless there's any... Okay, so that is the last question. Thank you very much, colleagues. Minister?
Okay. Yes, did you say, is it true that we only wrote to them last night?
Minister,
You used the word overnight.
Yeah, over last night. Let me say then last night.
Well,
I'm talking
look.
specifically about your a concern that you're not cited in these papers. And when you say you're going to challenge, what do you mean? Will you be
Okay.
deposing an affidavit to join the court process, or how do you plan to do this?
Well, like everybody else, on Friday we came to learn. I woke up to hear about this challenge, court case by Dr. Nandipha Magudumana against the state. And I heard it like everybody else through the media. Only yesterday, late yesterday, DG was able to get in possession of the court documents. And we found that Home Affairs is not there. It's not being cited. That's when we started seeing red. And immediately after that, yes, we wrote a letter to the lawyers, which we deposed last night. It's true. Because he only received those court papers very late yesterday. And when we went through them, in fact, me, when I heard over the radio, I took it for granted, knowing what has happened. I took for granted that the people who have been taken to court includes Home Affairs. And so that's why in the statement I said the DG was shocked to find that the Minister of Home Affairs nor the department are not being cited. And that's when we saw red and immediately put pen to paper to ask the lawyers, why do you do that? Especially as I'm saying last week, the same lawyers wrote to us asking about this whole process, how it happened, etc. And we responded immediately on the 15th of May. It was the 15th, DG, to say, look, you are asking for confidential information in possession of the state. In that regard, the law say you must go through PAIA process. And instead of going through the PAIA process, or at least up to now, we never received that PAIA papers. We then hear that there is a court case. We assumed we are there. And when we found that we are not there, then we wrote to them. Yes. Of course, if they put us there, we start deposing affidavits. But in the court case, there are respondents. And we want to be part of those respondents because we believe the process was undertaken by us. This process of removing them from Tanzania, which they call an abduction, I don't know whether they call it an abduction or what, was conducted by us. So if anybody abducted any other person in Tanzania, it means it's Home Affairs who abducted, and we don't know ourselves having abducted anybody. That's why we are insisting that please cite us officially in our papers because we want to come and respond for ourselves.
Are you saying you're deposing an affidavit, Minister? Sorry, just for clarity, are you deposing an affidavit?
Griselda, we have not cited now. We just wrote a letter. Yes, we'll take the process from there. Once we've been responded, we just wrote a letter. We sent the copies to the various stakeholders, including the NPA, including the correctional service facilities, including the Minister of Police, who is the only minister in that letter who is cited, including him, including the clerk of the court in which this case is being heard, and the magistracy and all that. We send letters to them to tell them about our concern in this case of not being cited, of not being enjoined as we should be.
That then brings us to the end of this briefing. Thank you very much, colleagues, for coming through, and thank you very much to the Minister, DDG, and the Provincial Manager. With that, we have come to the official end of this meeting. Thank you.
So we can